Welcome, everyone, to another enlightening episode of the Sustainability Spotlights. I'm your host, Lavanya, and today we have a special guest with us, John Friedman, a seasoned sustainability consultant deeply committed to advancing sustainability practices. Welcome, John. It's amazing to have
Thanks so
you.
much.
Before we go ahead, John, could you please share a bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. I've been doing this kind of work since the year 2000. Started working for a number of different corporations as an internal expert and leader in the area of corporate responsibility and sustainability tied to business strategy. And then I started consulting just a couple of years ago as an independent consultant now, but with Grant Thornton for about a year and a half.
Perfect. I'm excited to learn from you today, John. And so my first question to you would be that in your experience, what do you think that, today there are elements which are missing in what sustainability teams are currently doing? And how can they enhance their efforts?
Well, there's a couple things, and one has been going on for a very long time, and that's seeing it as separate from the existing business strategy, trying to convince companies to care about sustainability rather than showing them how the sustainability perspective and mindset can help them to achieve the goals that they have already set out for themselves. Another area where we're starting to see some real traction is in the credibility of the metrics associated with sustainability, ESG. We're seeing this in Europe. We're seeing it a little bit in the US. We're seeing it around the world. And the importance here is rather than just turning sustainability into an annual reporting exercise with no connection to the business, this data can provide business intelligence that enables companies to run their business better. And so getting the metrics comparable, consistent, and decision useful, that's been a missing element as well.
Right. It is crucial for sustainability to have a very very meaningful impact on business, John, as you rightly said. So what strategies or approaches do you believe can help sustainability teams have a meaningful say in the decision making process of a business, of what you said, to move beyond reporting but to be that business intelligence layer.
The advantage of starting, and a lot of organizations do with reporting, is you start to collect this data. And that surfaces two things that businesses care about. The first are hidden strengths, things that they might be doing well or differently or better than their competitors that they can point to as a reason for customers to favor them or for people to want to come work there. And the second thing it can do is point out risks, things that they may not be looking at or not be managing well, blind spots that they need to get a handle on as part of managing the business effectively and well. And that can be everything from inefficiencies in production or potential pitfalls of emerging regulations right through to vulnerabilities in their supply chain, whether they be geopolitical, things like child labor, or they be physical, things like climate change. Helping the business to see these things as business impacts on the positive as well as on the risk side is a great way to start that conversation rather than talking about climate change as a theory or melting polar ice caps or sea level rise or the theory of increasing number of storms or droughts and so forth. How does that affect the physical locations where you are running your business or your supply chain?
Right. So, John, from your recent work or from your recent experience working with teams, could you share an insight which can act as a good example for others to learn from? Something that showcases the successful integration of sustainability into a business model, and being able to communicate it apart from the theory, but also something that really impacts the business in a meaningful way.
I think one of the things that people are looking at is how to attract, hire, retain, and I would add engage the best talent. And businesses spend an awful lot of time trying to get the right people to come in the door. But how do they keep them there and how do they get the best work out of them? It's what I call the breakdown of the Bruce Wayne Batman paradox. If if you're familiar at all with the Batman story, you know that Bruce Wayne, the millionaire, is Batman, But what people don't realize is that people don't want to have separate lives where they make money during the day and do good at night. But even more fundamentally important is a lot of the issues that Batman addresses are problems that were caused by Wayne Enterprises. A simple parallel is the Joker, which is one of his frequent criminals that he goes after, was actually created by falling into a vat of chemicals at Wayne Enterprises. There can be no greater parallel to an environmental degradation caused by your business that you then get credit for solving it. A business example is companies will feel great if the employees go out and they'll feel good about the company. They go clean up, let's say, a local park or stream. But if what they're cleaning up has the logo of the company on it, they recognize that they're not only being part of the solution, they're also part of the problem. People don't want that disparity anymore. They want to know that what they're doing every day, the work they're contributing, their time and their talent to, is actually aligned with their values, not in contradiction.
Right, right. So I believe, John, that Wayne Enterprises had a great leader in Bruce Wayne then, who came to realize the problems. But what if the enterprises that we have today, the leadership is still, let's say, not too sure of what sustainability is bringing into the table. So how would you suggest the sustainability teams or people who know the sustainability world better, who know the implications better, to actually convince the leadership or to be able to move the needle a little bit so that they inculcate sustainable decision making within their daily work as well.
Well, that's an interesting point because I would argue that Bruce Wayne didn't solve the problem. He could have been much more vigilant about what was going on in his company, and he could have been vigilant instead of a vigilante. But that's the point. CEOs or business leaders, and they don't always have to be the CEO, have to come to the fundamental understanding that the way they do their business and the impact it has on people and the planet is integral to their success long term, not just meeting shareholder expectations. And so I encourage them to look at not what they make, but what they do. What you make are the products and the services that you provide, but what do you do? How do those products and services impact people in their daily lives? That gets to the idea of value and purpose. And also then the extension of that is the way you do your business, the way you produce those goods, or the way you provide those services is also an impact on people's lives. But you have to start with the products and you have to start with the services. How do they make people's lives better? Does your business present itself in the world?
Right. So then, John, I believe that companies are then, faced with a kind of a challenge as to which to choose. For example, let's say a CPG company is making lives better by supplying cleaning products to people. They're making their lives disease free. They're making their lives hygienic. However, they're also adding so much packaging, so much plastics into the supply chain, right? So how do they start then calculating the pros and cons of what products or services they're bringing to the consumers?
Well, I think it starts with that mind shift, right? That they're not a cleaning products company, they're a clean company, they're a hygiene company. If you start to realize that the way you present in the world is to be help things be cleaner, then it's a natural extension to help the environment be cleaner. It just is that one step further. It's the switch from we are product focused to we are purpose focused. And that will teach them or show them, okay, our products help people clean, but the products themselves create a great deal of waste and trash. What do we do about that? How do we reduce that waste and trash in keeping with the idea of cleanliness as their value proposition,
Right.
not a contradictory value proposition.
This is beautifully put, John, and I believe that we can derive a lot of suggestions from here for a communication part as well, right? Once you have decided the strategy, I believe that communication is the key. So this can be a good example for how sustainability teams and even businesses in general can communicate their value and their purpose to the larger community and to their own consumers, so that they get a, a bigger understanding of things that they're buying and from people whom they're buying from. So would you like to add something about communicating your purposes and your vision as well, John, to sustainability professionals who are working in this domain?
Absolutely. The first audience are your employees. Because if they don't buy your purpose, no one else will. It doesn't matter how good the ad campaign, how slick the PR effort is, or how passionately the CEO talks about it. If the consumer's day to day interaction with your employees does not match what they are hearing and seeing, it will not be credible because it will not be true.
Right. So the idea is to first convince the employees, or for example your colleagues first, before you go on to convince the rest of the world of your purpose and mission.
You
Wonderful.
have to make it real before you tell people about it. It's about transparency, not spin.
Right. So we have always heard of culture. For example, Amazon CEO always talks about that our culture comes in is embedded in everything we do, customer first. So it's absolutely wonderful how companies have been able to inculcate culture in everything that they do. And we do need to what, yeah, adding to what you're saying, John, we need for the sustainability purpose and mission to be, to be embedded within everything that a company does, and not just, an ancillary department that is just doing the reporting and compliance. This is beautiful.
A lot of companies say that sustainability is in their DNA, but I always challenge them is if you have to say it, are you sure it's true? Because I don't have to tell you what's in my genetics any more than you have to tell people what's in your genetics because it's physically expressed in the way you appear in the world. If a company feels the need to say it's in our DNA, I would challenge them, but is it in your actions?
Right. And so if I were to ask you, John, if you were to write a report card for a company, how do you judge that somebody is actually doing the work versus just, just a PR or a running exercise for them?
It's a great question because there are a lot of ratings and rankings out there. The first thing I look for is transparency. Are they being truthful? Are they being honest? Or is everything sunshine and rainbows in their sustainability report and on their website? Or do they actually talk about some of the issues and challenges they've faced and some of the lessons that they've learned? Do they, and it really comes down to also the day to day interaction. We all know companies that we see the ads, we hear the radio commercials, what have you. But then when we go to the store or the restaurant or what have you, that is not our experience. So it's really about that transparency rather than just seeing it as a communications tactic to convince people of something in order to drive sales.
Perfect. So, by summing it up, John, what would be your top three tips for sustainability teams to excel in roles and that they drive positive change within their own organizations?
Well, I'm going to break the rules and ask if I can give five because there are five keys that I believe are essential. The first, tie it to your existing business strategy. If you have a growth strategy, make sure it supports the growth strategy. Compatible with the day-to-day reality that your employees face. It can't be, oh, let's do Giving Tuesday or let's do Environmental Wednesday. It has to be able to be consistent with what your business does every day and what your employees face every day. Direct extension of something I said earlier. You have to empower and engage all of your employees, not just the green team, not just the safety team, not just the ethics team. It has to be everyone's job. Fourth, measurable, credible results that you report transparently. And the fifth is work with your stakeholders, engage your stakeholders, whether they're your employees, your customers, the community, your suppliers, even your regulators, and help them to understand what you're doing and what is reasonable to expect from your company. But at the same time, also listen to what they're telling you they are looking to see in your company. That's the concept of double materiality.
Right. Perfect. And for our audience who wants to know more about the 5 points that John just mentioned, John has written a lovely book on it as well. John, would you also like to tell us a little bit about the book that you've written?
Sure. The book you're referencing is called Managing Sustainability First Steps to First Class. It's available online from either Business Expert Press. It's probably easier to get it from Amazon, and it is available both in the dead tree as well as the electronic version.
Perfect. Thank you, John, for generously sharing your insights today. It's clear that incorporating sustainability into various aspects of business is not just a necessity, but the impertinent way or imperative way forward for a more sustainable future. As we conclude this episode, I extend appreciation to our listeners for their dedication to sustainability. Let's stay committed to forging a more sustainable future together. Thank you for tuning in and take care until next time.